Okay, so good evening everyone. I am Shivani Tok and I welcome you all for the week 11 tutorial for the course of Introduction to Wireless and Cellular Communication. So like every week, this week's tutorial will be divided into two parts. First, I'll quickly discuss the contents that were covered in week 11, followed by the questions which are related to week 11 content. You can stop me at any point of time to ask your queries, and please unmute yourself and ask the queries because the chat box might not be visible to me. Okay, so let's start with the recap of week 11 content. So in this week we continued with our discussion for of CDMA, but now we moved on to look at uh, multipath, how CDMA works with multipath and multi-user. So first thing that we looked was CDMA with multipath scenario, and we saw how to decode the given or how to demodulate or decode the data that we are receiving through CDMA. And the receiver that we looked at to do so was the rake receiver. And this rake receiver is nothing but a match filtering based receiver. And essentially it is a correlation receiver. So what does it do? Let's say we have whatever we are receiving at the antenna, something like this. So then we have delays. So we have L delays. Then we have a gain. And then we add them. And this added signal, whatever we have, we multiply it with your filter, your pulse shaping signal, and then we integrate it over this duration. And here we get the final bit, whatever we want. So this particular thing is known as the rake receiver, and this rake receiver, the name comes from the structure that we have here. So it looks like the rake that we use in gardening and all those purposes. Because of that, you get this name rake receiver. Once we looked at rake receiver, the next thing that we looked at was the CDMA. Before going ahead, this particular receiver, whatever we have built, it gives us the decision statistics or the received signals as if we are seeing something like L+1 branch diversity. Then we looked at CDMA with multiple users. So when we have multiple users, these users will start creating um, interferences, and we get, or basically for every user what we get is SINR, that is signal to interference plus noise ratio. And to model that interference, what we do, we use central limit theorem. And what the central limit theorem gives us, for large number of users, this interference can be modeled as a Gaussian random variable. Yeah, and then when we have multiple users in a system, we see something known as near far problem. So what does that mean? Let's say you have two users. One is close to base station and another is farther away from the base station, and both are simultaneously transmitting, let's say, with same power. Now the user that is close to base station, so the user that is close to base station will experience a smaller path loss. Which means received signal at base station is of higher strength. But if a user that is farther away or far from base station, it experiences a larger path loss and smaller received signal strength or lower. So now what happens is this signal, the user which is closer to the base station is basically an interference to the user that is farther from this particular base station. So what happens is this high signal strength of the closer user degrades the SINR. So this user degrades the SINR of the far user. So now what is the thing that we should do? So how to avoid such kind of problems? So to avoid such kind of problems, you allocate the transmit powers to the users such that all the users see the same SINR, or in other words, the base station sees same SINR for all the users. So ask users to transmit with powers such that at the base station all the users lead to same SINR. So this is a near far problem that comes up in CDMA, and this is how we tackle with it. After that, we looked at capacity of CDMA systems. So the capacity of CDMA systems basically gives you how many users can you simultaneously serve in a CDMA system. After that, we looked at something known as the pole capacity. This pole capacity is an asymptotic thing. So this is an asymptotic capacity. That is for large number of users. And it is asymptotic, and the way we can visualize it is how many. So when we have such kind of scenario, when the users are very large, you have a huge load. Because of that, your cell radius shrinks, and therefore you all the users now start being located near the base station. So for this particular situation, what happens is only the nearby users are served or can be served. So how many such nearby users can be served for a particular SINR, required SINR, that is your pole capacity. We'll take up questions related to this today. After that, we saw a concept known as cell breathing. So we said that the cell radius in a CDMA system can expand or can shrink based on the load that you have. So what we see is, if we have large number of users, the interference increases. So if we have large interference, in that case the coverage area or the cell radius, the coverage area reduces. Similarly, if we have smaller interference, the coverage area increases. So this enlargement and shrinking of a cell due to different types of interferences or different strength of interferences is known as cell breathing. And in some cases, if the load is too much or if the interference is too much, then your cell radius shrinks to such a level that there is no overlap between the adjacent cell. So because of that, there is a region where there is no coverage region start to appear if you have a very high load. After that, we moved on to look at CDMA receivers, and we looked at three types of receivers. The first one that we looked at was the optimal receiver or the ML receiver. ML stands for maximum likelihood. So this is the optimal receiver. This is the and ML stands for maximum likelihood. So it is called as maximum likelihood because it maximizes the likelihood function. So if the bit stream that we want to decode is B and its estimate is given by B hat, then it is given by the argmax over B, f of R given B. Here this R is your received signal, and this B here is basically your bit stream or signal sent signal. Transmitted bit or signal. Okay. And for CDMA system, we specialized this. So we got for CDMA, this comes out to be equal to B hat equal to argmax of B Hermitian R plus R Hermitian B minus B Hermitian R B, where this R is basically your cross correlation between two spreading waveforms. And this B and this B and R are basically your k cross 1 dimensional vectors. where k is your number of users. So this is the optimal receiver, and and the computational complexity of this particular receiver increases as your exponentially with your constellation size as well as the number of users. So now what we said is, let's not have this ML receiver, but try to construct a suboptimal receiver that will somehow give me a comparable performance, performance comparable to your optimal receiver. So that then we went on to look at something known as a zero forcing receiver. The zero forcing comes from the name zero forcing comes from the fact that it forces the interference to go to zero, and it is given by b hat equal to r inverse of your little r vector, and yeah, this is what you get. But a major drawback of this particular thing is this inverse operator, this inverse of r can potentially enhance or increase the noise. So this is the drawback of your zero forcing receiver. So to avoid such kind of issues, what we said that we'll go with a linear receiver, and that linear receiver is basically your MMSE receiver, and it is constructed based on the orthogonality property that the error or the estimation error is perpendicular to the data that you are going to receive. And for that we said कि my estimate of B or is given by a linear combination of your received signal vector R. And we saw that this, based on this orthogonality property, this matrix A turns out to be R plus and not into D inverse whole inverse, where this D basically contains all your signal strengths across your users. So this D is basically your diagonal matrix with diagonal entries given by your energies E1, E2 and so on till Ek. So this was your MMSE receiver. So this is all about the CDMA that we have looked in this particular course. We stopped CDMA at this particular time, and then we switched gears and we started to look at something known as MIMO. So this MIMO is basically an abbreviation for your multi-input and multi-output channels. And so what we are interested in is we have multiple antennas at the transmitter. So we have 1, 2 NT. Let's say this is I. Okay, let's take it as I. Yeah, and we have multiple antennas at the receiver. So 1, 2, NRX, NRX. Yeah, so we have NRX antennas at the receiver. This is my receiver, and this is my transmitter. Let's say this is Lth antenna, and from each antenna I am transmitting signals over wireless channels, and the channel between your ith transmit antenna and the lth receive antenna is given by your HLI. So this HLI is given by or basically gives you the channel between ith transmit antenna and your lth receive antenna. Okay, and let's say your R of L is the signal that you receive at lth receive antenna, and SI with the signal transmitted from ith transmit antenna. So now at the given time instant, at every antenna, you will be receiving the signals transmitted from every transmit antenna. So what you will be receiving, so this RL is basically given by your HL1, that is a channel gain between the first transmit antenna to the lth receive antenna into S1, plus HL2 into S2, and so on till HLNTX, SNTX, plus you will have noise. So this NL is basically your AWGN distributed CN 0 comma sigma square. Okay, now what we do, we stack all of these received signals at all the antennas in a vector. That vector we name as R, and we stack them as R1, R2, and so on till R and Rx. So this R is basically an NRX times one dimensional vector, and this is given by your HL1, HL2, and so on till H11, H12, H1NTX, H21, H22, H2 into NTX. Then you will have HNRX 1, HNRX 2, and so on till HNRX into NTX. And here you will be having S1, S2, and so on till SNTX. Plus you have your N1, N2, and so on till NTX. So this is your R vector, this is your H matrix, this is of the dimension NRX cross NTX, this is your S vector, this has a dimension of NTX cross 1, and this is your AWGN vector which with each entry IID. So this is N, which is again NRX cross 1. So the receive equation for a MIMO channel is given by the vector R. It is a vector matrix relation. So R equal to H X, HS plus N. So the problem that now we need to solve is what is S when you observe R, then what is the capacity of the MIMO channel. So these are the questions that we'll try to answer in the next week. So we stopped with the content, the week 11 with at this particular point. We will continue with the MIMO channels in the next lecture. So today what I will be doing is, since we did not cover anything in much detail in the MIMO part, I won't be taking any questions related to MIMO today. I'll focus only on the CDMA part. And yeah, we'll see the examples of how to apply the receivers, then interference and all those things. But today I won't be touching on MIMO part. We'll have a detailed discussion on MIMO in the next week. If you have any questions till this point, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll move on to the questions that I have planned to cover today. Okay. Okay, if there are no questions, then let me move on to the next, to the question that I have planned to cover. The first question that I have planned to cover today. So the question here says that consider a CDMA system with imperfect power control. So what it says is we haven't controlled the powers, which means at the um, at the receiver we'll be seeing different SNRs. Every user will correspond to different SNRs. So we have CDMA with imperfect power control, with power control such that we have magnitude of alpha 1 as 0.9, magnitude of alpha 3 as 3, alpha 2 as 3. Then the spreading factor Q is given to us as 128, and this EB by N naught is given to us as 10 dB. So this EB by N naught, which is equal to 10 dB in dB scale, is nothing but 10 to the power 10 dB by 10, which is 10 in the linear scale. Okay, so what we need to find is, we need to find the degradation factors for both the user. So we want to find the degradation factors. So what are these degradation factors? These degradation factors are basically your interference scaled by noise. 1 over interference scaled by noise. So this, for user 1, the degradation factor, let me change the marker color. Degradation factor for user 1 is Dg1. It is given by 1 over 1 plus 1 over Q EB by N naught into magnitude of alpha 2 square. I'm not going into derivations and all those things. This has been discussed in a greater detail in the lectures. Similarly, the degradation factor for user 2 is your Dg2, and it is given by 1 over 1 plus 1 by Q into EB by N naught into magnitude of alpha 2 square. Okay. So we have been given magnitude of alpha 1. We know magnitude of alpha 2. We know Q. Sorry, this is not 2, this is 1. When you have user 2, the interference will be caused by the other user. We have, okay, so we have magnitude of alpha 1. We know magnitude of alpha 2. We know the spreading factor Q, and we also know EB by N naught. So all the things that we require are given. So now we just need to plug in those values in these formulas and get the answer that we want. So this Dg1 is given by 1 over, I'll just repeat the formula once, 1 plus 1 by Q into EB by N naught into magnitude of alpha 2 square. which is equal to 1 over 1 plus 1 by the Q value is 128. EV by N naught was given to us as 10 dB, which is again 10 in the linear scale. And magnitude of alpha 2, it is given to us as 3. So this, if you use your calculators, comes out to be 0.5872 in the linear scale, and if you convert it to dB scale, that comes out to be equal to minus 2.3121 in dB. So this is the degradation factor for user 1. Now similarly for user 2, the degradation factor is given by 1 over 1 plus 1 by Q into EB by N naught, magnitude of alpha 1 square, and this comes out to be equal to 1 upon 1 plus 1 over 128 into EB by N naught is again same 10. But now we want to plug in the value of alpha 1, that is 0.9. So this is 0.9 square, and if you simplify this using your calculators, this comes out to be equal to 0.94048 in linear scale, and in dB scale it comes out to be equal to minus 0.2665 dB. So these are the degradation factors that you have. Any questions till this point? The simple questions, just plug in the values, but still if you have any questions, then let me know. Alright. If no questions, then let me move on to the next question. Okay, so the question here says that for the previous question, like for the values given in the previous question, what are the values of the respective SINRs for both the users? So it says that for the previous question, what are the SINR 1 and SINR 2 for user 1 and user 2 respectively? So we have seen that this SINR 1, it is given by magnitude of alpha 1 square EB by N naught upon 1 plus 1 over Q EB by M naught into magnitude of alpha 2 square, which is nothing but magnitude of alpha 1 square EB by N naught into the degradation factor dG1. So this is a linear scale. Now if I want to convert it into dB scale, so I'll have SINR 1 in dB, it will be given by 10 log of magnitude of alpha 1 square EB by N naught plus dG1, that is degradation factor for user 1 in dB, and this log is to the base 10. Yeah, okay. So this is equal to 10 times log of your magnitude of alpha 1 is 0.9 So this is 0.9 square, and your EV by N naught was 10. Plus you have your DG1. So the DG1 we have found out as minus 2.3121 dB. So this is minus 2.3121 dB. This comes out to be equal to, this logarithm, this comes out to be equal to 9.08485 minus you have 2.3121, and this comes out to be equal to finally 6.77275 dB. So this is the your SINR1. So this is basically your SINR for user 1. Let me add a page for user 2. Yeah. So this SINR2 in similar fashion, it is given by magnitude of alpha 2 square EB by N naught whole divided by 1 plus 1 over Q into EB by N naught into magnitude of alpha 1 square. This is nothing but magnitude of alpha 2 squared EB by N naught into DG2. This is linear scale. So your SINR2 in dB scale comes out to be equal to 10 times log of magnitude of alpha 2 square EB by N naught to the base 10 plus DG2 in dB. So this is equal to 10 times log of magnitude of alpha 2. So magnitude of alpha 2 is basically 3. So we have 3 square, and EV by N naught we have seen as 10, plus you have DG2, and this DG2 we have obtained as minus 0.2665. So this is minus 0.2665 dB. Now this first term, if you use calculators, it comes out to be equal to 19.54243 minus 0.2665, which comes out to be equal to 19.27592. This is in dB scale. So this is your SINR2. So if you see, if you have different values of alphas, if you haven't set it to 1, then in that situation what happens is your SINRs are very different. Your SINR for user 1 came out to be equal to 6.7 or let's say 6.8 dB, whereas that for your user 2 was 19.2 dB. So there is a difference of almost 13 dB. There is a huge difference. So that's why this power control is very important to do, especially when your alphas are very different. One alpha 1 had magnitude as 0.3, another had a magnitude of one was 0.9 and another was 3. So that was quite different. This basically indicates your near far problem. Okay. If there are there any questions till this point? If not, then I'll move on to the next question. Okay. Let me move on to the next question then. So it says that repeat the question 1 and question 2 with when we have perfect power control. So when we have perfect power control, then in that situation we have magnitude of alpha 1 square as equal to 1. Okay. Now what we need to do is we need to repeat question 1 and question 2. What was question 1? Question 1 was finding your degradation factors. So let me go back to those formulas which we had written down. So these were the two formulas for our degradation factors. That is, for user 1 was this and user 2 was this. So now in both the cases, what we are doing, we are setting this magnitude of alpha 1 and magnitude of alpha 2 equal to 1. So this magnitude of alpha 1 and magnitude of alpha 2 both are equal to 1. And therefore what happens is dg1 is equal to your dg2 now. So we get dg1 equal to dg2, which is equal to 1 upon 1 plus 1 by q into eb by n naught. So this comes out to be equal to 1 upon 1 plus your q was, so let me just write it down, q was 128 and eb by n naught was 10. So this comes out to be equal to 0.92753 in linear scale, and this is equal to minus 0.32672 dB. Now what we need to find out is we want to find out the question 2 was finding the SINRs. Now once we have power control, the SINRs of both the users become same. So that can also be seen from here. If you have alpha 1 and alpha 2 equal to 1, or magnitude of alpha 1 and magnitude of alpha 2 equal to 1, in that situation your SINR 2 and SINR 1 both come out to be equal to same. So now what you have is SINR 1 equal to SINR 2 is equal to 10, EB by N naught divided by 1 plus 1 over Q EB by N naught. So your EB by N naught was 10 divided by your 1 plus, and your this factor 1 upon 1 over, let me do it step by step. Let's not jump over the steps. Yeah, so this is basically EB by N naught into your dg1. Let's say dg1 and dg2 both are same, you can use them interchangeably. So now what we have is, so your SINR in dB comes out to be equal to your EB by N naught in dB plus your dg1 in dB. This EB by N naught in dB is given to us as 10 dB, and this dg1 comes out to be equal to minus 0.32672. So this is minus 0.32672, and this comes out to be equal to 9.67328 dB. So this is the SINR that you get when you have perfect power control. Both the users are seeing the same SINR. But when we had the other case, there were disparity between the two SINRs. The SINR of user 2 was boosted it was quite high, but that for the user 1 was much low. Any questions till this point? Okay, if there are no questions, then we'll move on to the next. Just a moment, I'll. Okay. Yeah, okay. So this is the question number 4 that you have. And it says that consider a multi-cell CDMA system. So you have multiple cells, and with other cell interference to be half of your intercell interference, intracell interference. Okay. So we had seen in the lecture that this other cell interference, we can write it as alpha times I times IC, which means that this alpha for our given case is basically your 0.5. Okay. So another thing that is given to, other things that are given to us is the spreading factor Q is 256. Then we have interference, total interference by noise ratio as 10 dB. Your voice activity factor nu is given to us as 0.5, and let k be the number of users. Then what we need to do is we need to find the SINR of the system when we have perfect power control. Okay, so SINR, how is it given? SINR, by definition, it is given by EB, that is your signal power, divided by I naught plus N naught by, N naught. So this is signal upon, you have your interference, that is your I naught, and then you have your N naught, which is your noise power. And when you have voice activity factor, you need to just scale it by nu, something like this. Yeah. So what you get now is I can take out your new interference term outside. So I'll have I naught nu into 1 plus N naught by I naught. Okay. Now in this formula, what all things do we know? So here we basically know, we know this N naught by I naught. I naught we can figure out somehow. And then we have EB here. Okay. Yeah, so these are the things that we have here. But now what we need to do, what we don't know is, okay, so what all things we know is N naught by I naught and nu. But what we don't know EB and I naught separately. So, but we have some other ingredients that are given to us. So let us try to figure out if we can do something with them. Okay, so what we have is this I naught, this is total interference. So this is basically interference from other cell plus your interference from the same cell. So this comes out to be equal to, you are given that your IOC is basically, let's be very generic, it is alpha times IIC. So alpha times IIC plus IIC. So this comes out to be equal to 1 plus alpha times your IIC. Okay, now this this interference, so if there are total k number of users, so the other k minus 1 will be interfering with you. So this IIC is the interference from other users from your cell. So this comes out to be equal to k minus 1 multiplied by the cross correlation Q into the signal strength, that is EB by EB. Yeah. Yeah, EB. So this is now what we have. So now I can substitute back this IIC formula in your interference equation. So this comes out to be equal to 1 plus alpha times k minus 1 by Q into EB. So this is your total interference in term as a function of your alpha, that this particular alpha here. Then it is also a function of your k, that is the total number of users. Then you have your EB and you have your spreading factor Q. Now what we will do, we'll substitute this particular I naught that we have obtained in your SINR equation. So for that, let me add a page. Okay, so I had SINR, let me change the marker. SINR was EB upon I naught nu into 1 plus N naught by I naught. And let me substitute back this I naught equation that we have obtained here. So this is equal to EB divided by, we have 1 plus alpha into k minus 1 by Q into EB into 1 plus N naught by I naught. So this EB gets cancelled. So what we are left with is 1 over 1 plus alpha.
Factor is also right, na?
Yeah, sorry, I missed it. Yeah, it's there. Thanks. 1 plus alpha into, let me just put it here. Yes, voice activity factor nu k minus 1 upon q into 1 plus n naught by I naught. So this particular SINR equation is in terms of all the values that are given to us. So now we can simply substitute all of these values. So what all things we knew? We saw that based on the given information, this alpha is equal to 0.5. This capital K, the number of users, is given to us as 100. Then we are given the this Q spreading factor as 256. Voice activity factor is given to us as 0.5. And we are also given I naught by N naught as 10 dB, which is nothing but 10 in your linear scale. So now I can substitute back all of these things in this equation. So what I get is 1 plus 0.5. Then your voice activity factor is 0.5. Then you have capital K, that is 100 minus 1, that is 99 upon 256 into 1 plus 1 over 10. So this, if you put in calculators, this comes out to be equal to 3.13437 in linear scale, and if you convert it to dB, it comes out to be equal to 4.9615 dB. Is it clear? Any questions till this point in this particular question? Okay, if there are no questions, then let me move on to the next question then. So the next question here says that what is the pole capacity for the previous question? So we had seen that for the previous question means whatever SINR we have given, if that is the SINR that we are targeting, then how many users can we serve when they are closer to the base station? If all the users are closer, located closer to the base station. So the pole capacity, that is your K pole, it is given by Q divided by SINR into 1 plus alpha times nu. Okay. Now this Q, let me just repeat those values. Q is given to us as 256. Then this SINR we obtained in the previous question as 3.13437 in linear scale, not in dB. Then this nu is 0.5 and this alpha is again 0.5. So therefore your pole pole capacity is given by 256, that is your Q, divided by SINR, that is 3.13437, multiplied by 1 plus your alpha, that is 0.5, into your nu, that is 0.5. And if you simplify this comes out to be equal to 108.9. So we take a lower value, so this is equal to approximately equal to 108 users.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, how we know that where we put the dB value and where we put the linear value? Because in some places we put the dB values, and for this pole capacity, the SINR, we put the linear value, right?
We have put
3.1.
a linear value. So this pole capacity and all those things we have derived from this basic formula. Okay. Or let's say, yeah, this basic formula. So when you have such kind of formulas which are basic, those have those take linear values.
Okay.
I mean, if the I don't know how to explain this, but this SINR is ratio. This is basically noise, signal power upon noise power. Let's say simple SNR is your ratio, signal to noise ratio by definition. So this is the basic thing. In this case, your signal power and your noise power, everything will be in your linear scale. And when you are taking the ratio, it will give you value in your linear scale. Now, if you want to get dB value, you need to take 10 log of that SINR to the base 10. That will give you signal power in dBm minus noise power in dBm, or signal power in dBW minus noise power in dBW. So when you have a ratio being translated to a sum, to a difference, or a product being translated to a sum, in that case you will be substituting your dB values. For example, this particular question, what did I start with? I started with linear formula. This SNR1 equal to SNR2, this is your basic formula, which comes out to be equal to EB by N naught into DG1. So in this particular formula, your EB by N naught is in linear scale, and this DG1 is also in linear scale. But then what I did, I tried to represent this SINR in dB scale. So what I did, this SINR in dB is basically 10 times log of your SINR in linear scale. Now if I substitute it, it comes out to be 10 times log to the base 10 EV by N naught into dg1. So this comes out to be equal to 10 times log to the base 10 EV by N naught plus 10 times log of dg1 to the base 10. Now what happens is this particular thing is basically converting your linear EV by N naught to dB. So this is nothing but your EB by N naught in dB scale plus this particular quantity here. It is translating your linear dg1 to its decibel equivalent, dB equivalent value. So this is equal to your dg1, sorry, in dB. So what is happening here? Here what we are having is your SNR, which has to be product or ratio of two quantities. We are representing it in terms of summations. So in that situation, what we get, generally substitute is decibel value. This is not a general rule, but the fundamental definitions, whatever we have, will be mostly in linear scale. Maximum times it will be in linear scale. Basic definitions, it will be in linear scale. Now for calculation purposes or for the ease of calculations, we convert them to dB. And then we translate the formula also equivalently the way we did here. So now what you need to do is where to put linear value and where to put decibel value. You first look at the basic definition of that quantity, what exactly it is. And once you understand it properly, not just the formula, physically what it means, then it will be very clear to you whether you have to put a decibel value or a linear value. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Any other questions? So this pole capacity is coming from the basic definition. Your SINR has to be in linear quantity. Okay. Okay. If there are no further questions, then let me move on to the next question. Okay, so this question says that in the previous question, if the noise rise is 10 dB, find the practical capacity. Okay, so for the given target SINR that we have obtained, which is basically 3.13437, so what we need to do is we need to find for that particular SINR what is your practical capacity when your noise rise is 10 dB. So the noise rise or total noise rise is 10 dB. Okay, and your noise rise is basically your ratio of noise plus interference power divided by your noise power. And this particular thing is in linear scale. So what it gives is N naught in linear scale plus I naught in linear scale divided by N naught in linear scale. Now this is a ratio. This ratio we can convert to dB scale. And what we are given is noise rise in dB scale. Now this noise rise that I have written here is in linear scale. So now what we need to do? We need to first convert this dB value to linear value. So first we need to do is converted to linear, which gives us 10 to the power 10 by 10, which comes out to be equal to 10 power 1, which is equal to 10. Okay, yeah. So this is what we have. So this comes out to be equal to n naught. So this is 10 equal to n naught. I'm dropping the linear thing, but still everything is in linear scale. So now what we get, 10 times n naught equal to n naught plus I, which means that your I naught is 9 times n naught. Okay, so this is the first equation that we have. Another thing that we know is your I naught. Okay, okay. Another thing that we know is this SINR is basically your EB by n naught plus I naught, which is equal to your EB by n naught plus I naught from this particular equation is 10 times n naught. So 10 times n naught, which means that we have EB equal to 10 times n naught into SINR. This is the second equation that we have. Okay, now this I naught is given to us as we have seen this earlier, EB into 1 plus alpha nu into k minus 1 upon q, capital Q. Now from equation 1, this I naught is 9 times n naught. So this I naught, another thing for large k, since we have this pole capacity is for large k, so what we can do is this is approximately equal to EB into 1 plus alpha. This is the approximation that we have used, k into q, so I don't want to deviate from the formulas. Yeah, so then we have this I naught, which is equal to EB into 1 plus alpha nu k by capital Q. This n naught is basically, we have seen it is 9 times n naught. And this EB, we have seen that this is equal to 10 times n naught into SINR. So this EB is 10 times n naught into SINR. Remaining things remain constant. 1 plus alpha nu times k by q. So this n naught gets cancelled, and what we are left with is we can interchange things a bit. K comes out to be equal to 9 by 10 into q by 1 plus alpha nu into SINR. Now this thing here is nothing but your pole capacity. So this is equal to 9 by 10 into your k pole, which comes out to be equal to 9 by 10 into your pole capacity was 108. So yeah, so this pole capacity we had obtained in the previous question that had come out to be equal to 108. So this comes out to be equal to 97.2, which is around 97 users. Is it clear? Any questions? Okay, if there are no further questions, then let me move on to the next question. So the question here says that repeat the question 4, 5 and 6 with new equal to 1. So we just have to repeat these questions when we have your new equal to 1. So what I'll do, I won't rederive all those formulas. I'll just reuse them. So the fourth question said that you want to find the SINR. And for that, the SINR equation that we obtained was something like this. Now what we need to do is we need to just set this new equal to 1. So I'll just reproduce those things. So question 4 was finding SINR. This is 1 over 1.5. Sorry, let me just do it properly. 1 plus alpha into k minus 1 by q into 1 plus n naught by I naught. Another thing before I forget, when this k is high, for example, if you have 256,000 and all those things, all those numbers, what you can do is you can replace this k minus 1 by capital K. This we had done in the lecture. That is also valid. You won't get significant deviation. You can do those things. Okay. So this comes out to be equal to alpha is 0.5. So 1 plus 0.5. K is 100. So you have 99 by Q was 256 into 1 plus n naught by I naught was 1 over 10. So this comes out to be equal to 1.5671, which is 1.95097 dB. Then question number 5 was finding your pole capacity. Your pole capacity was equal to Q upon SINR into voice activity factor nu, which now is equal to 1 into 1 plus alpha. So this Q comes out to be equal to, or Q is given to us as 256. So what we'll do, we'll use the same target SNR that we have here, that is 1.5671, or yeah, 1.5671 into 1 plus zero point 0.5, and this again comes out to be equal to 108 users. So now here what we have done, we have used the SNR or SINR with nu equal to 1. Now what we'll do is, if we want to get same SINR as when nu equal to 0.5, but with nu equal to 1, we will get k pole equal to 256 upon SINR. So this is from your question number 5. 3. Let me just check that value. 3.13437 into 0.5 into 1.5, and this comes out to be equal to 54 users. So you can serve only half of the users if you want to achieve the same SINR what we had obtained when nu was equal to 0.5. Now let us move on to the question number 6. So question number 6 said you need your k practical value, which we saw was 9 by 10 times k pole. So your 9 by 10 times 108, and this we had seen it comes out to be equal to 97 users. Now same thing, if SINR was 3.13437, then your practical value of k is 9 by 10 times 54. So this comes out to be equal to So this comes out to be equal to 48.6, which is approximately 48 users. So if you want to achieve the same SINR what we had when voice activity factor was 0.5, then you will serve 48 users instead of 97 users practically. Is it clear? Any questions till this point? Okay, this ends with the discussion of your capacity of CDMA. Now remaining three questions, what I'll do is I'll take up your receiver structures that we have discussed, that is your ML receiver, zero forcing receiver, and your MMSC receiver. And then we'll take a toy example of your received signal and your cross correlation matrix R, and we'll try to use those formulas that we had for your receivers to find the or to decode your CDMA signal. Okay, so this question number 8, what it says is your R vector, that is the signal that you're receiving. So received signal is R equal to minus 0.45 and minus 0.03. And then it is given that your R m comma n is equal to, okay, I'll write it, R m comma n is equal to this weird looking one with m equal to n plus 0.4 m not equal to n. So this particular function here is an indicator function. This is a binary function. So this indicator of A is equal to 1 when A is true. It is 0 when A is false. Okay. Now this capital R is a 2 cross 2 matrix, so it will have 4 values in it. So what is given to us? I'll just rewrite that R value. R of m comma n is indicator m equal to n plus 0.4 indicator m not equal to n, and this m and n can take two values, that is 1 and 2. Okay, so what is this R1 comma 1? So this will be indicator 1 equal to 1 plus 0.4 indicator 1 not equal to 1. So this particular equation 1 equal to 1 is true. So therefore this particular thing is 1, and 1 is not equal to 1 is false. So this particular indicator is 0. So this R1 comma 1 comes out to be equal to 1. Similarly, R2 comma 2 is indicator 2 equal to 2 plus 0.4 times indicator 2 not equal to 2. So this is also equal to 1. Same thing. Now you have R of 1 comma 2 is equal to indicator 1 equal to 2 plus 0.4 times indicator 1 not equal to 2. Here the second indicator is 1, the first one is 0, so this comes out to be equal to 0.4. And R2 comma 1, same story, indicator 2 equal to 1 plus 0.4 indicator 2 not equal to 1. This also comes out to be equal to 0.4. I deliberately wrote the R matrix in this form just to introduce you to indicator function. This is a very nice and concise way of writing things. Okay, so how does your R matrix look like? So R1 comma 1 is 1, R1 comma 2 is 0.4, then you have R2 comma 1 as 0.4 and R1 comma 1, R2 comma 2 as 1. So this is your R matrix, and you are given little r as, okay, that we have already written. Okay, so what we need to do? We need to apply the optimal receiver We need to apply the optimal receiver and find out which is the bit sequence that was transmitted. So now it is a two length sequence. So it is a two length sequence or input, which means if we have a binary input, we have four options. So four possibilities of B. So you will have, let's say, B1 as 1 comma 1, B2 as 1 comma minus 1, B3 as minus 1 comma 1, and B4 as minus 1 comma minus 1. Okay, and your optimal receiver, or let's say ML receiver, it is given by B hat is equal to argmax over Bm, where M ranges from 1 to capital 1 to 4 of f of Bm, where f of Bm is given by Bm Hermitian R plus R Hermitian Bm minus Bm Hermitian R Bm. Okay. Yeah. So now what I'll do is I'll substitute all of these one by one in this. So I have f of B1 equal to your B1 is 1 1. So you have 1 1 into your R. R is given to us as minus 0.45 minus 0.03, plus you have same thing. So I can simply so this Bm and R are real values. So Bm Hermitian R will be equal to R Hermitian Bm. So I can simply multiply it by 2 minus I have 1 1, then I have this R matrix into 1 1. And if you simplify this comes out to be equal to minus 3.76. Similarly, I can calculate f of B2. This comes out to be equal to B2 is what? B2 is 1 minus 1. So its transpose will be 1 minus 1 into minus 0.45 minus 0.03 into 2 minus, I'll have 1 minus 1 R times 1 minus 1. Now if you simplify this comes out to be equal to minus 2.04. F of B3, B3 is what? B3 is minus 1 1. So B3 Hermitian minus 1 1 into minus 0.45 minus 0.03 into 2 minus, you have minus 1 1 R times 1 minus 1, and this comes out to be equal to minus 0.36.
Ma'am, R
And finally what you,
R is ma'am, R
sorry,
is minus 1 1, na?
sorry, yeah, thanks. And finally we have f of b4. This comes out to be equal to minus 1 minus 1 minus 0.45 minus 0.03 into 2 minus minus 1 r times minus 1, and this comes out to be equal to minus 1.84. So now what we have, I'll just rewrite all of the values. We have f of b1 equal to minus 3.76, f of b2 as minus 2.04, and f of b3 is minus 0.36, and f of b4 is minus 1.84. So what we observe is b3 has the highest value, so we have f of b3 greater than, then we have f of b4, which is minus 1.84, then this is greater than your f of b2, which is minus 2.04, and this is greater than if your f of b1. So if you want to find the argmax of all of these values, the argmax is given by b3. So your b hat is equal to your b3, and your b3 is what? Your b3 is minus 1. So this is how your ML rule works. Is this clear? Any questions till this point? Okay. If there are no questions, then let me move on to the next question. So we are given the same set of values now. So your R is same, and your covariance matrix, cross correlation matrix is also same. Now what we need to do is we need to find the transmitted sequence when your zero forcing receiver is used. So we have same things. We have R as minus 0.45, minus 0.03, and your correlation matrix is given by 1, 0.4, 0.4, and 1. Okay, so this is what we have. But now what we need to use is we need to use the zero forcing receiver. The zero forcing receiver, it says that you estimate your B as R inverse R, and then what you need to do is you need to quantize it. Because you have binary values, so you need to quantize it to minus 1 or 1. Okay, so now let us find out your B hat. So your B hat is nothing but R inverse into R. Your R is given like this, and then your R inverse will be given by, it is a 2 cross 2 matrix. You can easily find out the inverse. It is 1 over determinant of that is 1 minus 0.4 square into 1 minus 0.4 minus 0.4. So now if I substitute this in that equation, so you have B hat equal to 1 over 1 minus 0.16 into 1 minus 0.4 minus 0.41 into your R, that is minus 0.45 minus 0.03. This comes out to be equal to minus 0.5214 and 0.1786. And when we need to quantize it, we'll push all the negative values to minus 1. So what we will do in this, map all negative values to 1, sorry, -1, and map all the positive values to 1. So if we do that, we get b hat as -1, 1. So what was the what was the detected signal we got with ML? ML gave us -1, 1, and this zero forcing also gave us the same value. So this whatever we obtained is same as what we got from ML. Is it clear? Any questions till this point? Okay. Okay, if there are no questions, then let me move on to the next question. So the next question, again, we have the same received signal and same covariance matrix. And now what we need to do is we need to use MMSE receiver. And for MMSE receiver, we need additional information. We need to know your energies and your noise power. But we are given E1 by N naught as 5 dB and E2 by N naught as -5 dB. Okay, so now okay, I'll just repeat few things again. So this vector R is -0.45, -0.03, and your matrix R is 1, 0.4, 0.41, and the MMSE receiver it gives us the B hat as A into R, where this matrix A is given by R plus N naught into D inverse whole inverse. Okay, so now let us first figure out your R plus N naught into D inverse. Before that, first we'll figure out what is N naught into D inverse, one by one. In this particular thing, your D is simply your diag of E1, E2, which I can write as E1, 0, 0, E2. Then your N naught into D inverse is given by N naught multiplied by 1 over E1, 1 over E2. So this is nothing but N naught by E1, 0, 0, N naught by E2. Okay. So the information about N naught by E1 and N naught by E2, or rather E1 by N naught and E1 by E2, is sufficient for us. So now let us first construct this value N naught into D inverse. So what we have or given to us is E1 by N naught as 5 dB. This is in dB, and again this particular equation when is in linear scale. So here everything is in linear scale. So you need to convert dB to linear. So when I do that, this is 10 to the power 5 by 10. This comes out to be equal to 3.1623. So this implies that N naught by E1 is nothing but 0.3162. You can check, it comes out to be like this. Then you are given E2 by N naught as minus 5 dB. This comes out to be equal to minus 5 by 10, which comes out to be equal to 0.3162. So this implies that N naught by E2 comes out to be equal to 3.1623. Now if I substitute it back in this above equation, what I get is N naught into D inverse comes out to be equal to 0.3162, 3.1623. So this is the first thing that we know now. We now in this particular equation now we know N naught into D inverse. Now let us first find out R into N naught into D inverse. Okay, R plus N naught into D inverse. So R plus N naught into D inverse. This comes out to be equal to, your R is 1, 0.4, 0.41 plus your N naught into D inverse is this 0.3162, 3.1623. Okay. Okay, so this comes out to be equal to 1.3162, 0.4, 0.4 and 4.1623. Okay, so this is what we have now. So now your A is R plus N naught D inverse whole inverse. So this comes out to be equal to inverse of this matrix. Again, this comes out to be equal to 1 into 3.162 into 4. Sorry, what am I writing? Sorry, 1.3162 into 4.1623 minus 0.4 whole square multiplied by, you have 4.1623 minus 0.4 minus 0.4 and 1.3162. Okay. So now finally what we can do is we can plug in those values in your estimate of P. So you have P hat as A into R. So this comes out to be equal to 1 divided by, you have 1.3162 into 4.1623 minus 0.16 into 4.3162 minus 0.4 minus 0.4 and 1.3162. 4.1623. Yeah, sorry. Multiplied by, you have your R. R is minus 0.45 and minus 0.03. If you simplify this comes out to be equal to minus 0.3499 and 0.0264. And again, if we repeat the same quantization thing, so you get your B hat as minus 1, 1. So this is essentially the same thing as what we got for ML and zero forcing receivers. So this is how your MMSC receiver works. Is it clear? Any questions? So this is all I wanted to cover today. If you have any questions at any point of time in today's tutorial, you can ask. I'll be here for coming few minutes. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you don't have any questions, then you're free to leave the meeting. Thank you for attending today's session. Hope to see you back in the next session as well.